Why government suddenly introduced FCRA Bill 2.0? Basically, the monsoon season is very challenges when the different protests is going on in the India. Okay, different NGO which are the threatings for the government. Government is responsible for the Indian sovereignty, and Ministry of Home Affairs introducing like the FCRA 2.0. Basically, it is introducing 2.0, and it was introduced in 2023, but different of the structurals and the bidens of the sovereignty for the Indian security, but it is not the proper way of the addressing in these bills. In 2025 also have introduced, but the lacking of their transparency. The Ministry of Home Affairs and also for the Home Minister Amit Shah is introducing 2.0 FCRA Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2.0. The different challenges subordinates and the foreign contribution in India is working for the healthcare, education, humanitarian assistance, and political structure, threatening of elections, helping for elections, different NGO organization which is operationals, and the confrontations of the government. But the FCRA is just introducing different monitoring and its certainty, transparency, structurals when the money is received, where the NGO money basically utility, where they expend, say it is just illegals or illegals or legals. The different structurals, the growth, the subordinations, and the constitutionalizations for the democratizing the process. And it is basically for the different NGO when they have threats of the Indian economies, for the different foreign regulations, donations, helping for the humanitarians, less and more threats for the humanity. So the government is basically introducing FCRA 2.0 2026. According to the times, it is the good times and introducing in the parliaments, because many of the threats I have seen last years, and how the different NGO which is working for the illegal threats for the different conservation protests and threatings for the humanity in India. So the Ministry of Home Affairs is monitoring this type of threats and working for the proper way of the utility that will the government and its utility improving. The sovereignty takes place in India internals, and it's basically for the working for the Ministry of Home Affairs, the government of India, and try to the proper way and its execution. FCRA is not is basically not, working in India. Many of the country have their own barrier of the foreign contributions and regulation acts, like the America, like the UK, Australia have also have European Union, because the external money threats is just like the threats of the internals sovereignty. So the many of the country have like the curtains, like the curtains and wall for the policy bills and different execution of working and its cooperations as societal structures. The working for their defining and its acceptance, the challenges like the different way of the environmental conservation protest, like the infrastructure, basically when the different mining sectors happening for the economy transformation, employment opportunity, but the threats of the different externals company, and they will provided NGO for the money, and NGO which utility for the protesting against the government. They harmonizing for the economy, they also harmonize for the elections, and also for the they use for the illegals working capacity in internals in different way. They also utility for the changing of the religions, changing of the different threads, and different NGO which are basically working for the different threats for the humanity and structurals. It is the subordinates and it's a constitutionalizations for the reformations in the current situation. India receive 22,000 crores annually, which have India have a total 16,000 NGO. They have benefits for the 22,000 crores, but many of the NGO is not utility for the helping for the humanitarian assistance. They have some of the NGO which is working for the illegals, and some of the highly illegal working capacity takes place, like the different of the Indian across have most of the threats for the humanity, most of the communal rights they helping, most of the protests they helping, just to they encourage for the students against the governments, and many of the policy which is introducing in India by the governments, many of the NGO which threats by the these types of illegal donation by the foreign contributions, and so the government is working basically for the different decades, and when they monitor about the NGO, many of the cases which is emerging like the rating of the Indian economy also have last months American President Donald Trump have also a press conference said about the Indian general election 2024. They have sent 200 millions dollars to harmonizing the general election and removing the current prime minister. So many of the country which also threats for the Indian economy through the NGO, but this FCRA bills 2.0 is working for the sale of the Indian economy advantage, and NGO have also provide the transparency, accountability, and the structure of the money they have utilized. They have different resources, and the monitor through the Ministry of Home Affairs, Technology Association, and when the money credited, and when the money deducted, say where they are utilized for this money for the foreign contribution. This is the monitor basically for the Ministry of Home Affairs, and the minister Amisa, Home Minister Amisa, just try to the ensure for the civilians of this country, when any NGO treats illegals working capacity takes place, they will be provided different threats, like their assets will be captured under the government when they have not registered under 1 years, before have 5 years, but in this FCRA bills have comes under the 1 years. So 1 years of regulations they are introducing FCRA certificates, regulatory comprehensive associative structurals, and also have they are renewables for their certificates. They also provide accountability of the contribution of money, and different way of the money which they have credited. They also takes accountability for the this Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2.0 in 2026. And after that, many of the threats which is happening, but government will also monitoring for the different NGO, and working for the societal reforms, structurals, and the capacity of the human resistance, like the northeast, like the southern state, like Kerala have 16% of NGO effects, and northeast have also effects, because these two regions have mostly NGO which is helping for the changing of the religions, like the Hindus through Christianity, and scheduled caste, scheduled tribes. So they have no any economically resistance. So many of the NGO which convert their religions through minority to Christianity. Christianity is also in minority community in India have, and these are the NGO is basically they have working for the converting of their religions, and threats for the economy, and also against for the government, and they having populations which is also after that they are different election they have owns, and control the estates, control the economy, and threats for the central governments. Also the encourage for the their youngsters to having for the different criminal assets. So the government is basically monitoring, thinking about the structurals, and the demographic dividend which is happening since 1947, how the structurals which is changing, and the different way of the demography which is having, Like the literacy rate of Kerala, we have seen how they have literacy rate is the not the proper political influence. They just try to the influence of the converting the religions. They just try to the converting the political structurals and having for the illegals working capacity through takes place. So the Ministry of Home Affairs is a ministry understanding the concepts about how the cooperation of an NGO is not the proper way of the utility efficiency, and they are just democratizing the process and helping for the humanitarian's way, but not solving the critical problems. And this FCRA bills is introducing 2.0 2026, which helping for their transparency, accountability, and is structural for the working efficiency way and its balance scope. Okay.